Welcome Ken Kelly to the Kids Entertainer podcast.
Hey.
It's a little bit different. Instead of looking through the glass of the Skype screen, I'm sitting here with Ken in this lovely cosy house he has here in Cheshire in the north of England. It's cold and blowy outside, and we've just come back in from doing one of Ken's regular weekend gigs.
Yeah, it was great to have you there, Julian, although I must say I was feeling the butterflies with having a peer and someone I respect and look up to actually watching my show. And what we hope to bring you today is something along the topic of behavioural things that we might see in children. So different kinds of behaviour, how to manage behaviour. You know, it can be pretty daunting if you have a misbehaving child. And so we're going to be hopefully having a bit of a discussion rather than interview about behaviour.
About behaviour and some of the tools that you can use. And it's interesting what you were saying about you being nervous, because it's something that, you know, after you've done thousands of shows, you tend to go into just automatic autopilot mode in doing these. So that was actually a really good opportunity for Ken to remember what it was like when we started doing shows. Because that there are many people listening who are beginning their journey, and it's important for us to, I guess, have that empathy with people, because, you know, I mean, time and distance dulls our memories of that. So it was great to see. He was, you could just see he was wanting to put his best foot forward this morning. And look, I'll honestly report, it was a really educational 2 hours for me, because how you do shows in the UK, Ken, is completely different to how we do shows in Australia.
Yeah.
You do a 2-hour party package where you basically, with the moment everybody comes in, you are managing not just the kids but the adults as well, and giving them a whole 2-hour party package experience, and then right through to the end as you see them out. In fact, you're almost like a host, you're almost like a master of ceremonies of the whole event, whereas in Australia, an average party would be 2 hours long, but I'm booked to do a 40-minute magic show. Yeah. And I come in at not long before I have to be there. I'm talking only a few minutes worth. I do my show. Everyone has a great time. And bang, I'm, nice smile, but I'm out of there. So there was a lot of education that I got just from watching how you go about it. Because I've got to tell you, you were in a large hall. So let's just paint the picture for everyone.
Well, before you do, I mean, that you're speaking about there, I wish somebody had told me that. Because I didn't know this, Julian. You know, I worked in South Africa for my whole professional career was built in South Africa. And South Africa is a land of sunshine. And it is a land of outside entertaining. So the average birthday party, I guess, as it would be in Australia, is held outdoors or within your home with the doors open and the barbecue outside and the swimming pool. That was kind of the way of things. So I had a 40-minute magic show. Worked as a kids entertainer. I would get in my car on a Saturday morning and go and do my 5 shows. And I was proud of the fact that I was in and out in the wink of an eye. It was an instant reset show. I landed in the UK because we made the difference, and I thought it would be the same. And I had my little box, and I wanted to go and do 40-minute magic shows, and nobody was booking me. And when I looked around, I saw the market was different. And the reason for the difference in the market in the UK is that it is not the land of sunshine. Look outside, Julian, now. It is pouring down because it rains in the UK over 300 days a year. Well, pretty much over 300 days a year it's going to rain. So you're guaranteed that you can't have your party outside. The houses in the UK, because it is a densely populated country, are very small. There's a lot of people that live on this little island. So parties are held in community centres, or as in the show you saw today, Julian, a church hall. And the parents have got 35 kids in that school, in that hall, in that confined space. They can't go outside for 2 hours. You know, in Australia, they can go outside. Can't here. And they want someone that's going to come in and take care of it from them. The parents just want to take their hands off and have a wraparound service from before the first child enters till when the last guest leaves, that something has happened and the guests are taken care of. And that is, I guess, the GMD formula, as I called it, when I was learning how to put this together to match this market. And that's what you saw today.
And it was, and that GMD, for people who don't know, stands for Games, Magic and Disco, which is essentially what I saw today. Ken's 2-hour party program that he puts together is very, very structured. I want to get to that, and I want to get to your, the ability that you had to bring those sections, because your show is your program is in 4 really distinct half-hour blocks, and I was actually doing some videoing there, and I was keeping videoing my watch as well, and you can see when the shots on my watch. You come in as the minute hand almost sweeps up to the top of the hour or the bottom half hour. Bang, that section, the games bit finishes, and it goes on into the magic show. Then it goes on into the food part. Then it goes on into the disco. Very, very tightly structured. It was wonderful to see. But I just want to go back and paint a bit of a picture for people to understand the venues that you perform in and some of the problems. And one of that is, so it was a church hall, and it was like a 1980s brick church construction. It was like an L shape and a long hall, very, very flat surfaces. And even though if I get bookings in school halls, one of the problems, and anyone who has been in these will sympathise with Ken, what he faces weekly is echo, very what they call live halls. Yep. They got polished floors and nothing on the walls, and you lose control. You lose control because all the sound just bounces around like a crazy madhouse in there. So the first thing I noticed when we went in today, and you had a big smile on your face, was what on the floor?
There was a carpet, and that is a luxury. There's very seldom a carpet on the floor, because all that does is it reduces one reflective surface. And I guess as a magician, and I know we're speaking to other kids entertainers, and you don't maybe work with sound systems, you may be a balloon twister, you may be doing face painting, but as a magician, I need people to be able to hear what I'm doing. So acoustics, as we call it, are really important. And I look at the halls and sometimes it's pretty challenging. One of the greatest lessons I learnt, and I use it to this day, is if the room has really bad acoustics, turn your system down and whisper. If you speak almost in a stage whisper, because what you're doing by increasing the volume is you're increasing the amount of times that the sound wave, because that's all sound is, it's a wave, bounces off surfaces, and it just gets muddier and muddier as the waves clash together and just distort the sound. Just turn it down.
And that's just here. I mean, if you've never heard this before, if you want people to pay attention to you, talk softer, talk quieter, get down to a whisper. And I just witnessed this so nicely today. And again, we'll put together a video of this, and you'll see some of it. Of Ken, of these continual, for the whole 2 hours, whenever Ken wanted the kids' attention and focus right in, he quietened down. And you can actually see all the kids start to crane forward. They get up on their knees and lean forward and listen, because it's like something really important is going to be said, and they don't want to miss it. So, just as a tool to control people. And it's counterintuitive, because people think you need to go louder to get more control. No, it's the other way.
And that is keying exactly into what today's main topic is, and that's the behavior of how children behave and how you can use good technique to get the best out of your show. And you mentioned, Julian, looking at today's show, it was really structured, and that's a formula, to be honest, and that's a formula that anybody can apply, and that's what's in my course, the GMD formula. It teaches that formula. But underlying that formula, what makes the show successful is the techniques that manage the behaviors of the children and of the parents, because without that being managed, you just have mayhem.
So let's go back to when you're setting up, and basically only the parents are there, and they've got their young daughter there, who's the birthday girl. You're setting up, and in the car park start coming the cars, and in dribs and drabs over a period of 5 to 10 minutes, the parents and these little 5 and 6-year-old girls are starting to come in with their presents in their arms. What's the first thing you did when the first child walked through the door?
That first little girl that arrived was the birthday girl. I was keeping an eye out for her. And as soon as she arrived, I will stop whatever I'm doing. I get into character. and I go and say hello and I welcome them to their party. Really, really important. And it's important to be there to welcome the children as they're coming in, because you get to, well, with the GMD formula, if you're there and you're not just arriving to do a show, because it gives you the opportunity to see how they are. How do they greet you back? So if you say hello to them, are they shy? Do they look at you and smile and say hi back? Do they shout at you and go, hello? And then you know, oh, hold on, we're starting to see some behavior. So you can already, at that early stage, start kind of looking at the behaviors of the children. And as soon as I have a little group of children, I will take them over to the area that I perform in. And I will segment the hall into a performance area and a sitting down and eating area. I'll take them over to the performance area that I've segmented out, and I'll run through the rules of how that works. And I say, hey, tell your friends when they come in. So what I'm doing is I'm creating alliances. I'm getting the children on my side.
You're doing that, but you're also doing something else. And I don't know whether you realize this, and I'm sure you do at a subconscious level. What you're doing is that you're establishing yourself as the person who is in control in here. You're the person running the show. The kids and the parents don't come in and look around and who should I go to, where should I go? They see you bounding from the other side of the hall to them to greet them and take control. So you're establishing that you are the person in control. And that is essential in any kids entertaining. It's the foundation of my show that I do myself. Is everything is structured to show that you are the person in control. And if people respond to the requests that you put to them, you reward them.
Agreed.
You reward them with fun. And if they don't respond to your requests that you want and the structure that you're putting down, we have these techniques in place that they're not going to get fun.
It's behaviorism. It's actual behavior. Albert Ellis founded the study of behaviorism, and well, he didn't, but he brought it into psychotherapy, I guess. And it's really interesting. You're talking about how the world works, which is punishment and reward.
Yeah,
really, and it works. It works. I mean, there were terrible experiments that were done on animals using punishment and reward, and they showed to be really effective, and it works on people in herding, the people as a herd, and it definitely works at magic shows. And you're 100% right. Really important to set that boundary of I'm in charge here. And one of the things that I noticed is one of the parents, I think it was a grandparent. In fact, I think you spoke to her afterwards, Julian. In fact, I know you spoke to her afterwards. She came in and she stayed near the door. It's a trend of parents to want to sit near the door. And I don't leave any seats near the door because I want the parents sat in where I designate the seating area. She took one of the seats from the table where the children were going to sit and have their party and put it down and sat near the door. And I went over to her and I said, if you don't mind, are you okay just popping over to those seats there? We've put those for the grown-ups. And she said, well, no, I know that, and I'll go over there in a minute, but I just want to sit here while people arrived. Now, I can't allow that because what will happen if she sits there, the next parent will also want to sit there. And before you know it, they've got their own group. So I've got to control that. So I said to her, I hear what you're saying, but I really need you to help me on this, because what will happen if you sit here, the next parent will come and sit here as well. So if you could just move, and maybe slightly reluctantly, she, okay, and moved over. Slightly reluctantly, she wasn't upset by it and moved over. She had a great time at that party. I know she did because you spoke to her.
Yeah, I spoke to her, and we might even put a little clip of that in later, so you can hear what her experience of the party was. But you have to understand that people actually do like to be directed. They want to be directed because they spend their whole week having to make decisions, and being directed means if they trust you, and this is the thing about you establishing that you're in control and you do it in a nice way. You know, I'm not saying you come down and you tell people what to do. You have a big smile on your face, and you do it nicely. But if they sense that you're in control, they actually like to give themselves over to you because they're thinking, oh, I don't have to make a decision. He's going to send me over there, and I feel that that's going to be for a good reason. I sense that there's going to be some follow-up with this, and there's going to be some reason, and they don't mind doing it. So don't be scared about doing that. And this is behaviour, and this is not just kids' behaviour we're talking about. This is the adults' but behaviour as well.
So. When you're managing the party, when you're there, whether you're a face painter, balloon twister, a magician, a clown, a juggler, it doesn't matter. You're in charge. And you need to act like you're in charge. Because when you're in charge and you act like you're in charge, people feel confident that you know what you're doing. And you're there to make the event the best it can be for the birthday child or for your booker, and to make sure all the guests have a good time. And they're only going to have a good time if you're able to deliver your best. And you're only able to deliver your best if the conditions meet the requirements you need to be able to give your best. And that's all you create. And then you're able to give your best. Everyone has a great time and they go, wow, that was great. I had fun. And you've done your job.
Well, let's talk about setting those conditions up, because you walked into an empty hall and immediately the mother of the birthday girl started to set the hall up. She went to a cupboard and she got out the food tables and started to set them up right down the back of the hall. And what Ken came in, he came in and gave her a pre-printed and laminated sheet of how to set up the hall. And she just looked at it for about 10 seconds and went, okay. Yeah. And she took all the tables and then set them up in exactly where Ken wanted them set. And she set the chairs how Ken had set it up. And what it was doing was actually, because it was a large hall, and it was controlling the space and bringing it down into one end of the hall and focusing all the energy into the performing area.
Yeah.
It had the space where the kids were going to sit on the floor, but then it was almost an L shape of seats, and then some theatre and a couple of rows of seats. So in a sense, you created a small, intimate stage where your performance was going to take place, and you contained all that energy into the one area.
100%, and you've nailed it. You've just said it so beautifully. And I will gladly make that floor plan available on the show notes. So if you want to see that, just head on over to Kids Entertainer Podcast. Click on the podcast tab, and it's not Kids Entertainer Podcast. Kids Entertainer Hub is where we host the podcast. Click on the podcast tab. Go down to the show notes of today's episode, and you can download that. I'll make that freely available. It'll be my pleasure. But that floor plan has been put together over years and years and years of seeing what works. And you're 100% right. You know, if people are heard it all the time, if you go to an airport, there are barriers and little bits that direct how you're going to walk through. I remember learning in my studies about how people are guided when they go to rock concerts and things like that. You've got tens of thousands of people in one place. You need them to go where you need them to go in the fastest possible time. And that's all I do. I set up the floor plan in such a way that it guides people to where I need them to be. Because that hall that we worked in today, that would easily have taken 200 plus people. There were 35 kids at the party. Take 35 children, put them in a space that is big enough for 200 people. You have pandemonium and mayhem, because children, it's like atoms. They just fly everywhere. They will use the space that you give them. But if you bring that space down, you actually concentrate it, you contain it, and you concentrate it. And like atoms again, it kind of makes them more excited within the more confined space, and you get the energy. And I say it like this: if you went to go and watch a really good theatre show, maybe with a bit of a sing-song, something like We Will Rock You, and there were 5 people in the audience kind of dotted, so there was you and then 10 seats and then someone else, it would feel really cold and you wouldn't feel part of the show. But you go to a packed auditorium, you're going to be on your feet going, we are the champion. Now you see why I'm a magician, not a singer. My friend, you get it, you feel the energy. And that's what you want at your show. You want that same experience. Why should my show be any different to going to a theatre or to a rock concert? I want them to leave buzzing. So contain the space.
So, and this is, we'll just go back to the behaviour of the parent. When you gave her that sheet of paper, what I could see, the look on her face was like, oh, thank goodness, I didn't know how to set this out. I know how to set this out now. I've been told what to do. I'm very, very happy. I don't have to think about this. Yeah. They don't want to think.
No. God forbid we should think.
No, but I mean,
you're right.
it's our whole life is spent thinking.
I stopped counting at my 8,000th birthday party. I got to 8,000. I thought, what am I doing this for anymore? I've done enough. So I stopped counting. So that's how many parties I've been to. That mum, her daughter was turning 6. She's probably hosted 2 or 3 and maybe been to 20 at the most. So I'm able to share the experience of what works at thousands of parties. And of course, they're so grateful. And again, they see you're in charge. They see that you have a plan and a structure, and they are so grateful. Oh, thank you for showing me what's going to work best to make my party better.
You then got the show going and you had the parents down almost like in a theatre setup, and then you had the kids in front of them on the floor, and you had a bit of music going in the background, and you start your show off with bubbles, with a little plastic bubble gun.
Yeah.
Now, I was timing it. Actually, I was videoing my watch as well. I think you got about 9 minutes out of this bubble gun. And there's a big difference between going in and going, squirting bubbles around and go, well, kids, everyone go around and catch a bubble. And that would probably engage them for 30 or 40 seconds before they would all start to run off. What you had was this structure of, it was a build in your routine with the bubbles. What you had was a structure in the way that you built this routine with the bubbles. We were talking about it before about in your magic show, you do this trick called the diminishing cards.
Yes.
Essentially, when a large card gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, like there's a real structure, where this is going. This is what you actually did with the bubbles as well. It was 9 minutes. Those kids were absolutely fixated on every new challenge you gave them with the bubbles.
Yeah, and the bubbles, here's the thing. I'm an entertainer. Now, and it's interesting, if you're listening to this and you're not a magician, you thought, oh, we've got a magician today. I don't do magic. Well, I wasn't doing magic. I was entertaining the kids. Now, there just happens to be the one part in the show where I use magic tricks to do that. But you can take those magic tricks away and replace them with balloons or whatever you like, because it's about entertaining. And I was entertaining with bubbles. However, underneath the entertaining of the games that are played with the bubbles have got a job in the show, and it's a job that is linked into behavior, because I'm watching the children very carefully when I have the bubbles. And you listening to this as entertainers will know the shy child who doesn't want to come up and who wants to sit with mum. You clock them, they're really easy to see because they're not part of the group. Bubbles are magical. What kid doesn't love a bubble? And you just pop a bubble in front of that child and say, can you do it? While they're sitting on mum's lap. It is so non-threatening while sitting on mum's lap in the safety and security to burst a bubble. And then you reward them, as you were saying just moments ago, Julian, you reward them by saying, wow, that was really good. You've just got some points for the girls' team now. Do you know that? Can you get this one? And you just step a little back and you shoot another one. And before you know it, they stand up and they start following the bubbles. It's almost like the Pied Piper. And slowly, with patience, and by keeping on involving them, you bring them in. So it's a great way to bring in the shy children. Then you're going to see the boisterous one. The boisterous one is going to be the one diving in front of the other children, elbowing them out the way to get to the bubbles, and jumping up and trying to grab the gun out of your hand. So you're able to see who they are and get their name, kind of turn the mic off and say, hey, please don't do that because the other children can't get to the bubbles, and you can address that and pop the mic back on. But then, so that is happening all the time. When somebody new comes in, they see something's happening because bubbles fill the area. You walk into that place and you look over. Every mum that walks in walks over, looks over to the area. You've got a whole pile of kids all enjoying themselves. And the sky is just full of bubbles. And you got the music and the laughing of the children. It is amazing entertainment. But if you stand there with a bubble gun, shoot some bubbles, you're gonna, as you say, you're gonna get a minute if you're lucky. Then the kids will be bored. You've got to structure games that set challenges, that have different levels. And the games are escalating. We start with easy stuff, it gets more and more challenging and more difficult, more that I need from them, and I'm building my character with them too.
I just want to make sure that people don't get the wrong idea there, is that you painted that as a bit that there were bubbles everywhere. In fact, there aren't bubbles. I mean, to the kids looking at it, there'll be bubbles everywhere, but you are actually doing very controlled bursts of bubbles. I mean, it wasn't as though the whole room was full of bubbles. What you were doing was you were just giving enough bubbles for them to react to the very well-chosen words that you were doing. So the bubbles were the physical activity that, or the catalyst to get them doing something physically active. Because this is the other thing, and talking about behaviour, is that those kids are primed for a party. I'm going to a party today. Yep. And from the moment you started, they were burning up energy, and they were up and they were jumping and bouncing, and then you would stop them and really effectively stop them and get down. And again, we go back to the whisper, and they'd all lean in because you were giving the next direction that they had to do with the bubbles, and bang, it was on again, and they were bouncing like they had new springs put in their shoes, and they were off. So even though it does sound the way that you were saying it to me, if you didn't know there were bubbles everywhere, it wasn't. It was very controlled.
Yeah, it is. You're 100% right. And I know you can buy bubble machines where you can kind of just blast bubbles out. And there's something to keep in mind if you're going to work with bubbles, and that is health and safety. Specifically, I mean, today we were on a carpet, there was no issue. But if you're on a slippy floor, you don't want many of those bubbles reaching the floor. You want them to be able to pop them in the sky, because then it's gone. It's gone. There's going to just be a small drip that's going to come down. So I have a towel, which you didn't see today because I didn't need it, but it's there on standby should you need that. And I guess what we can maybe do is, again, in the show notes, let's share a little video of some good bubble games, because I've got some, and we can show you them, and you can have a look at that and maybe get some ideas of games that you can play. You can listen to the words that I use that really get the children involved and keep them involved, and as Julian was saying, kind of hear those more whispered directions that where the children are leaning in. We'll pop that in for you.
And what you also have to understand is, while this is going on, and Ken is giving the directions to the children about what he expects of them, so that they will be rewarded with fun if they if they stop and listen to the instructions and follow the instructions. The reward is fun. At the same time that this is happening, all the parents are sitting there, and I'm watching them talk together. And essentially what they're saying is, oh, look at him. He really knows how to control these kids. Because they were coming in. I mean, because most parents would expect, it's like if the parents go to a play centre. I mean, as soon as they open that gate, those kids are gone, and it's just bedlam. And what you were doing, you had those kids burning up as much energy as they would at a play centre, but you had them coming, you could control them and contain them and quieten them at any time that you wanted. And the parents see that. And it's so important. It's important for you as a performer. It's important for you getting more bookings again. And it's important for the parents because, again, they're feeling this person knows what they're doing. So when you ask them, deliver an instruction to them, which you did, because what happened was that after you got going a bit, then more parents had come in, and there were a few recalcitrants down the back, and a couple of fathers with their arms crossed. Oh, I'm not getting involved in this, and a few mothers who were going, no, I want to be on my phone, or I want to chat. And when you had the kids doing an activity, and you would come down a number of times, and you would take those stray ones, and you would bring them back into the pack. So by the time the second half or the second half hour started, which is your magic show, and it doesn't have to be a magic show, it could be any other form of entertainment that you do, is everybody is in where you want them. And again, I mean, we'll put this video on there because I've got a great video where I'm actually narrating underneath what's going on.
Brilliant.
And I'll show you the empty hall at the back, and then you come around and you'll see everybody up watching Ken's show. Now, I can tell you out of thousands of parties that I've been to, you rarely see that. But you achieve that because you had a system in place that you follow almost to the letter every time you do a show.
That's it. It is a structured formula that works. And the great thing is, it's not because I'm a phenomenal entertainer, because I'm not. There are so many better magicians, if we're talking about magic, than me, better entertainers than me. But the formula works.
And I know we started off this episode saying we were going to be talking about behaviour, but this is about behaviour because what you've got to understand is that if you set these rules and regulations in place, the structure in place, you don't have bad behaviour to deal with.
Yeah.
This is something I don't get in my shows. I mean, honestly, I get a 0.0, I don't know, let's just say 0.01% of any performance that I do where I have a behaviour problem, because you set this structure in place that deals with that behaviour.
Just with the confidence of being in charge, it cuts down on so much of the behavioral issues that you might see. You'll maybe find more beginners on the forum saying, wow, but I get so many children misbehaving. I get the parents and they won't listen to me. They just keep on talking. That is not the parents and the kids' fault. It is not putting in place that I am in charge from the beginning, from guest number one. That's when you want to be on to that. Because if you're in charge, people feel, hey, that's the person in charge. I better do what they're saying and follow the rest of the people. You're creating also that the herd mentality in when you've got 30 parents all sitting together on the chairs watching the kids, and another parent walks in. They don't feel comfortable to not sit with the other parents. They're not going to stand separately. They're going to go join them because that's where everybody is. It's what we do. So it generates its own momentum, as it were, I guess.
And it becomes easier to do this if you have routines. And again, it doesn't matter what you do, but if you actually study them and you script out what you're going to do, because there are many entertainers who go, I'm not the sort of person who writes scripts. I just go in and I just wing it. The problem I have with doing that is, number one, I can't do it. I'm just not that good that I can just go in and wing it. I need a tight script. But what it does is it means that you can then test things. And it's like when we talk about in marketing, we split test headlines or whatever. We split test, in a sense, words that we use. And so if you know that you've got a script or a trick or a performance that works well, change one word in it. And sometimes you might see less of a response to that, but you might actually find just that one word changes something in a really positive way, and you put that word in. But without having a structured routine that you do over and over and over again, you never end up at this point where you know what you say is going to be really effective, but then it lets you go off path and deal with problems. So if you do have behavior problems, it's you know your routine so well that you can deal with that in however you have to deal with it, and you keep the show going without barely a blip.
And if you're listening to this and thinking, hey, well, where's the artistry in that? You're like killing the spontaneity. Yeah, what Julian is referring to is to have a scripted routine. There is, of course, an element of looseness within that, as there was with what I was doing today. I would react to the crowd and work with the crowd. So it is not that strictly scripted that it's every single word is the same, every party. That would be cardboard. But what I do is the same, and the formula that underpins it is always the same. And here's the thing. Think of any successful business, Julian. Give me one. Any one that you think is a successful business that's out there. Monster big business. Name one.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. How many times do you think the chef at McDonald's thinks, hey, you know what? I'm just going to wing the burger today. I'm just going to put a bit of... You can't. They got a formula that works. They don't wing it. Well, no successful business wings it. So why?
But as entertainers, if you go to a Broadway show, if you go and see Mamma Mia, if you see The Lion King, if you see Wicked, which have done thousands and thousands of performances, they don't wing it. They have a very tight script that they work to.
And you'll see some shows where they wing it within the show, and it's a scripted wing. Where they're scripted impromptu, which is great. And of course, there's the other side of this of entertainers that choose to be impromptu entertainers, but they work damn hard at being that. That is not easy. It's not easy to be a Robin Williams and to be able to walk out with no script and deliver an hour and a half of comedy. I too can't do it, and I need that structure. I need the formula, and they are tried and tested routines. I know they work because they've been tried at thousands of parties, and the kids tell me they're the audience. They're the experts of what's going to work.
Then we come back to, so you've spent about 10 or so minutes with these bubbles at the start, which is essentially, in a very controlled way, burning up energy of the kids. Then you go into what you call your danger pass the parcel, which essentially takes the next 15 minutes or so of the show. Now, this is a really, really interesting part when it comes to behaviour, because what Ken does with this, now you might hear pass the parcel and think, what? I mean, everybody does pass the parcel. Well, there's pass the parcel, then there's danger pass the parcel.
The interesting thing, I'm just going to stop you there. From delivering the GMD formula, having loads of people from the States that are engaging in the course, many of them are saying, hey, this is a brand new game in the States. And their issue is, how do you teach the children this game? So if you're hearing this and thinking, what is pass the parcel? It's basically the children sit around in a circle and pass the parcel around when music plays. And when the music stops, they open a sheet of paper to reveal another sheet of paper. And then they carry on until eventually somebody wins the prize, which is buried inside.
It's a wrapped parcel within a wrapped parcel within a wrapped parcel.
Like a Russian doll.
And the problem with the standard version of Pass the Parcel that almost, or certainly in Australia, that every parent who puts on a party goes, well, we'll have to do Pass the Parcel, and normally we'll wrap it up in some old wrapping paper. Is the problem is that there's those who aren't involved, who don't get a chance to unwrap it, feel left out. In fact, it's a big problem with many, many party games. Yeah. What you have is you have a structure that fixes that problem, but goes way, way beyond. What your Pass the Parcel is structured really for you to identify the behaviour of all the kids.
Yeah, it is. And Danger Pass the Parcel starts with a challenge and a countdown. And I cannot stress how brilliant this is. Here's a great top tip. Write this down. No matter what kind of entertainment you do, write it down. If you want children to do something and you want them to do it quickly, use a countdown. And what do I mean by a countdown? It's a 10, 9, 8 counting down. And you tell them what they need to do, and then you say, but you've only got 10 seconds. And you play the countdown over your PA system, and they will do it. Now, my countdown, basically the challenge is, we've just done some games with the bubbles. I do a bit of a jumping game, which really burns energy. And then I say, well, we this is a birthday party. Where's our birthday child? We're now about 15 minutes, I guess, into the party. Get the birthday child, and I say, hey, you guys have got 10 seconds to join hands with the birthday child and make a circle. And I just hit the countdown, and I stand back, and I use my voice to create urgency in, come on, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. They always do it. That 10-second countdown is longer than 10 seconds, by the way, Julian. There's a secret for you. I've slowed it down. If you're looking for a countdown, you want to know where to get them, go on Google and just type in countdown. You can get them. You can download them for free and try it. You really, if you take anything away from this, take the countdown and use it. It is brilliant.
It is. I use it in the balloon workshop blueprint that I do, which is, I mean, I'll have 100 kids who have got literally almost 1,000 balloons around them with noise and chaos, and I can get them all in a tight group by simply doing a countdown.
10 seconds. You can get kids to do
it's
anything.
Almost, and talk about behaviour, it's almost Pavlovian.
It is.
It's almost, they hear it and they cannot stop themselves doing the request that was given to them.
Yeah. It's mob mentality, because what happens is it sets off a chain reaction. You see, the shy child that sits on mum's knee? You start the countdown, everyone getting in the circle. You see the shy child running off mum's knee towards the circle. It just sets something off. It's powerful, and we as children's entertainers can key into that. So you make a circle, everyone's standing holding a circle. Now here's the thing with why a circle. A circle is something that the kids know. They've known it from preschool. They've known it since before preschool. If you go to a mums and tots group, they sit the children in circles. If you look back and you look at tribal man, and even today, I mean, you can go through to Southern Africa and go look at the Bushman tribal people who still live out in the desert. They sit in circles. It's wired into our DNA. You sit in circles so that you can see 360 degrees for when the saber-toothed tiger is coming. This is why it is wired into us. But we feel secure in a circle. Everybody's in the front row in a circle. The shyer child feels okay to come and join a circle because they know it. It is a snug place. It is a warm place. You can take a group of strange children and they will happily sit together in a circle.
I'm just going to jump ahead there. Right to the end of your show, you use a circle as well. and it was really effective. And I was standing back and I watched, there was a father who came in who had dropped his child off and left and is just coming back at the end. And Ken gets all the children and all the parents. And I'm telling you, this is 2 hours in and he has everybody doing exactly what he wants them to do. This is consistent the whole way through, but right up until the end, I'm talking about the last 2 to 3 minutes of the show here. He has every parent and every child there. And this father came in, and you do this old dance, the hokey cokey or something, and he said, "Kids, get your parents to come on in." And all the kids ran. And I was so excited about bringing their kids into the circle. And this little girl came to the father, and the father, he's a regular blokey sort of bloke, and he went to his daughter. "Oh, I don't know how to do the hokey cokey," and his daughter went in and she kept looking back over her shoulder and she was really she was accepting, but she really wanted her dad to go in. And I almost felt like saying to him, it'd be so good if you went in and just did. But on his own accord, with everybody in the circle, I don't know if he felt left out or he just felt that there was a safety in the circle. Because that's the thing about the circle. No one's in the front. There's no front row or back row or pointy end. Everyone who's in a circle is in the same position as anybody else in the circle. So the thing was, he joined in, and you had, and again, I've got this on video. Every person at that party was in the circle.
We'll pop that circle on so you can have a look at that. And here's the thing about the circle: it's an easy place to be for the children. And if you're listening to this, it's another takeaway for you as an entertainer. Use the circle. It doesn't matter what game you play. If you can sit the children down in a circle, it changes the dynamic of your group. It is so powerful. Even if you just sit them down in a circle to tell them something, what you're going to be doing that day. I'm going to be painting everyone's face and just use that circle. And and contact me and tell me, because you're going to see the difference. It is magical. And here's the thing. You know how we have our own personal space? Everyone's got a personal space. When someone starts getting too close, you start feeling uncomfortable. Whoa, don't feel comfortable anymore. You're in my personal space. Doesn't exist in a circle. You stand in a circle, everybody feels pretty cool. And you're rubbing shoulders with the person next to you. It's really interesting. Psychologically, we just work in circles as humans. And what's really interesting, if you put a group of children in a circle, you will see behaviorally challenging kids in that circle straight away. You'll see that boisterous child straight away. Comes out in a circle. It's magic. Just brings it out. And you can go over to them and say, "Hey, what's your name?" Because if you know what their name is, that's going to be really helpful for you. And you can identify those behaviors. So it is a really magic place. And Danger Pass the Parcel is just the most fun game ever. Everyone loves it. The kids love it. The parents sit there with their teeth showing all the time because they're just smiling, beaming, watching the kids play this game. And it's basically so simple. And you're talking with the bubbles, and with Pass the Parcel, you got over half an hour's entertainment that will work for children 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-old. Boys, girls, strange children who have never met one another, or classmates that all know each other. It'll work in a mixed age group audience. It's magic material. It's that all children's entertainers can just take and use, and it's all there.
Now, here's the beautiful thing. So we get to the end of this first half hour, which, as Ken was saying, was just bubbles and passing a paper parcel around. Now, I mean, there's more to it that because it's very subtle and structured, and it's come from, how long has it taken you to work that out? A decade? Or
it's years of working as an entertainer. I then went and studied behavioral science, and I now lecture behavioral science at Warrington College under Chester University. So it's an interest of mine. I really want to know what's going to make it better and what makes kids tick, and all of that psychology underpins those games and what we do and how they work and why it's so much fun.
So we've done this first half hour, and it's now time, and it's literally on the half hour that you get to this, it's time for the magic show.
Yep.
Now, again, it doesn't matter what sort of entertainment you do, but if you need an audience to be sitting and in a frame of mind ready to see your show, and also preconditioned to how you want them to react and interact with you during your show, you take them from standing up into a circle to sitting lined up, ready to see a magic show, like absolutely primed to see it. I think it took 15 seconds.
4. It's honestly 4 seconds. It is so quick. It just happens. And it happens from using the line. I use a line on the floor, so I put a line down before we start off, and that's the line that the children are going to sit behind. It gives me a safe distance, which from a safe and health and safety perspective it's good. You need space to work. If a child's going to come up and maybe help you in your show or your performance, you don't want them tripping over other children's legs. So you've got a nice distance. Put that line down. From the circle, take the birthday child, sit them behind the line, and say, "Hey, everyone, come and join the birthday child. We're going to do a magic show now." Say nothing else. Just put on the music and stop. And they heard again. They just go.
Now, it's interesting that you use a line, and by Ken saying a line, he means like a line of masking tape that is run down and stuck onto the carpet. So a straight line that is essentially, let's say, 15 to 20 feet long, or say 4 meters to 5 meters long,
Yes.
taped down. I don't use any line like that. I used to use a line. I don't use it anymore. Having said that, if I was doing your show the way you do it, from going from that activity of pass a parcel where they're all in a circle, the line is essential, because it gives them a point to go to. You've given them a direction, and they go behind the line. Because one of the problems I found I used to have with lines was kids would sit there, they would start to pick up, unstick the line, because they just fiddle with things. I mean, kids fiddle. That's what they do. And then they'd start pulling it up, and then they'd see it, and everyone would start pulling it up. It didn't happen at all during your show today, because they're so focused that they know if they follow the prompts that you're giving them, the reward is fun.
They just have such a good time. They really have such a good time. And you're 100% right. There's the boundaries, and we started by speaking about those boundaries. And as soon as anybody goes outside of that boundaries, it stops being fun. Stops being fun for that child, because I changed from being the character, which is Ken Kelly, the friendly, fun to be with guy magician, to Kenneth Kelly, who's an arse. He's a real man, and he says, "Hey." Well, I'm not disrespectful to them, but it stops being fun. It kind of becomes colder, so it's a lot warmer and snuggly, and a really comfortable place to be within those boundaries. And they want to be there. They want to have fun. That's what kids want. So there's another takeaway for you. If you need kids sitting down, doesn't matter what you do. If you want kids sitting down, you're going to read them a story or something. You put a line down. I'll tell you a story, Julian, where this comes from. I worked for over 3 decades without a line. I wouldn't use a line. I heard kids in sense using line. Oh, I don't need a line. I'm great at controlling my kids. Who needs a line? I'm the incredible Ken Kelly. I don't need a line. And I went to a school. I was working at a school, and it was a really odd-shaped room, and I ended up having to pretty much stand in a corner to do a show. And I thought, because of where my equipment was laid out, I said to the teachers, I really need you to sit the children from around about here, because I need a bit of space to work. One of the teachers went into a desk. She came back with a roll of masking tape, put a masking tape line on the floor. And I stood back and I watched as 150 children walked into the room without saying a word and just sat down behind the line. And I thought, what have I been missing? Now, here's the thing. If you want to use a line, the best tape to use is called frog tape. Go on eBay and put in frog tape. You want the yellow one. Yellow lines are more effective than white lines. And it's psychological, because yellow is danger. On the roads, you don't go over the yellow line. If you go to the train station, it's the yellow line at the end of the platform where you don't go any further. So we know as human beings, hey, don't go over the yellow line. So yellow works better. Frog tape is low tack. It's a painter's masking tape. So when you stick it down on a floor, it's not going to pull up all their lovely polish and their varnish that they've got on the floor. It comes up nice and easy. So use the line, use the circle, use the bubbles, use a countdown. There's a lot of really useful information here.
You had all these kids come and sit down, and then there were 2 boys who sat down together. Now, let's call them nitro and glycerin. By themselves, nitro and glycerin are benign substances, but you bring them together as nitroglycerin, and kaboom! boom, it goes off. But you had identified them because of Pass the Parcel.
Yeah. It's called an alliance. You'll find that children, specifically with that kind of very high activity kind of, what am I going to call it?
They're hyperactive little
There you
boys.
go. Yeah. That's it. I just couldn't think
No,
of the word.
they're not naughty
No,
little
not at
boys.
all.
They're just
no.
boys together. But you don't want them together.
That's a good point, though. There's no naughty children. You don't get naughty. The children are not born naughty. They're not. When they're acting out and when they're showing these behaviors, it's because of the way they're made and the roads that they've walked in life. So yeah, but if you're hyperactive, the only person that you can have as a friend is another hyperactive child, because you will be unsuccessful in being friends with other children that are kind of more calm and laid back. They just don't fit with you. So you will find that the hyperactive child will form an alliance with another hyperactive child. And when you put nitro and glycerin together, it goes bang. You put two hyperactive children together. Now, the beauty of the circle is any alliances, you'll see them sat together. So when I spotted the hyperactive child within the circle, I checked who it was. I saw who the alliance was made with. It's very easy. Believe me, you just keep your eyes on it. You're going to see the activity happening. And when I sat them down for the show, I need to split the alliance, because leaving them together is that recipe for disaster. I just want it to be a great time for everyone. And the way I respectfully manage that is I went up to one of the boys after they were sat down and I said, "Hey, would you mind helping me? I need your help. Come with me." And I took him by the hand and I said, "I really need you to come and sit here." And I took him all the way, as far away as I could from glycerine. I took nitro and sat him down on the end of a different row. And I said, "If you sit here and be my special helper, all I need you to do, you can watch the show and enjoy it and have fun. But if you could just watch this row and make sure that everybody stays sitting down for me." Now he's got a job to do. He feels like a star. He feels special. They don't feel that they've been split up because the identification of that... of the two of them was made in the circle, so it's far away from that. They were both as quiet as anything. They were great. They were great kids in the show.
Now, we didn't see this today, but let's just talk about some of the really regular characters you see in an audience, the type of behaviours. And there's one that I see often, and it's normally a little girl who... When you ask for someone to come and help you from the audience, there'll be one little girl, and they it's like it's me. They pick, like they're bursting to pick you, but you don't pick them, like because you just know that's a recipe. There's something that's going on there that's going to be a problem. Yeah. But they see it as they've been personally slighted. They don't understand. That there's a way of the world that they just think it's their turn, and so when later in the show you get someone else to come, "Yeah, me," and you don't pick them, and quite often they'll stand up and they're actually stand up, like looking around at the adults and almost gesturing to themselves like, you don't understand. It was my turn. What's wrong with the world? So in your put your professorial hat on here, tell us about that character and what's going on and what we can do with that.
Sure. Okay. Well, this is the person. I call it "Look at me, because it's so easy to describe them as look at me. They tend to vie for attention. They seem to want to be in the spotlight. And an example of this is if you go to a birthday party and you say, whose birthday is it today? This kind of child will go, it's me, when it is clearly not their birthday. So they kind of try to vie for your attention. Now, we never know what road they have traveled to make them that way, but I can give you a little bit of an insight of some possibilities, May. What it can sometimes be is the difficulties at home where they have to fight for attention. It could be that they have strong personality siblings, that they're the youngest, so that they have to shout loud. And I think of it as little baby chicks that have just hatched out of the egg in a nest, where they're all, as the mum comes with the worm, and they're all wee, squeak, 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 with their mouths open and me. This child does this to survive, to get recognized by its primary caregivers, to feel loved. Now, what happens within this child is they feel an emptiness. They feel like there's a little bit missing, and that is valid. They are validated as a person when you give them that one-on-one attention. Then they're complete. Then they're whole. Then they are worthy. They must be worthy because you're now giving them that attention. But the counterbalance of that is you can't give them that attention because you've got 35 children that you are there to entertain. You're there to entertain the group, the crowd. And when you don't give them that attention, then they are not worthy. Then that emptiness, I'm not worthy. You're not seeing me. I need to be seen. So they will shout louder and they will wave their hands louder because it is their way of surviving in the world. They need that. A great way of working with this child is to see them and acknowledge them and smile at them and wink at them and appropriately touch them on the side of the shoulder. And an example of that, if I was doing a simple magic trick where I was getting all the children to blow to make some magic happen, I would say, right, I need everybody to blow. And I would look at the child that has the look at me personality right in the eye, and I would point at them. So the whole group of children think, they're speaking to us as a group. But I want that child, that look at me child, to feel like I'm speaking to them a lot of the time. I will make sure that I will check in with them via my eye contact at least every 20 seconds, 3 times a minute. It's easy to do. You're scanning the kids anyway. Just stop on them a little bit longer and smile, and they will feel validated. You'll see them. They will quieten down. They go from the look at me, because as soon as you give them that, as soon as they feel that connection, they go, I'm okay. And as soon as they feel okay, they feel part of the group.
I quite often make up some ridiculous excuse to them. I mean, only in the cases where it becomes to the point where you actually have to address this, and it gets to that point sometime. And I will quite often say that they have a green shirt on. I'll go, I just don't have any tricks with me today that I need someone with the green shirt on, but I would love to see you at another party. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
And they normally say yes. It's not me. It's not, I'm not the problem. It's the shirt I'm wearing. And you just do this, you do it quietly. It takes you 7 or so seconds to do that, and you move on with the show.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll validate. First of all, you're speaking to them, and that's what they want more than being helped, more than helping you. Is they just want your attention. They just want you to notice them and see them and speak to them and acknowledge that they exist and that they are there. The interesting thing is they're okay to use in your show, because once they're getting that feeding, once they're being fed with that, they're fine. It's not like they would get up and then act out. That would be a kind of a different, a more maybe severe behavioral challenge that you might be seeing then. Then you're looking at maybe ambivalent attachment, or in the worst case, disassociated attachment. But okay, we're not talking psychotherapy here and going into that. But yeah.
Yeah, I will use them. I have no problem with using these children, but I trying to identify better children, because of their particular routines. I want a type of person, and I've got my eye on scanning the audience the whole time, and sometimes they might be the best child. Sometimes you have an audience of kids who are so meek and mild, who don't want to get up. Well, I want, if that's the case, I'd rather have the kid who wants to get up. That's the way it works. So let's talk about another one of the characters that you see quite often, and I call them the Iceman. And they're generally a little boy, and you get them up, and all of a sudden they're not being naughty, they're not being awful, but they're not going to play ball with you. You ask them to do something and they won't smile. They'll have in fact, their whole body just almost goes with no motion at all. And, if you ask them to put their hand out, they'll just would lifelessly put their hand out. And it's, what's going on there? Because this is quite common.
Yeah, it can be a lot of stuff, and sadly, that kind of it's difficult to say. And obviously, I'm not talking about any specific people here. I'm speaking about general behaviors. But when you're seeing that almost kind of disassociated behavior, when you get someone up and they are kind of not because we know how kids interact. You get them up and there's one
more characteristic I want to say about this is that I can see them holding down a smile, that they want to smile, they want to do it, but they can't allow themselves to do it.
Yeah, and it is sometimes the behaviours we're seeing in children has a very sad root. And that's one of the things to keep in mind, specifically when you're seeing a really challenging child. It may be really sad what they've had to put up with in their life. We can't know. We're only there for that short period of time. So that's worth keeping in mind. What you're describing is an I'm okay, you're not okay kind of viewpoint on the world, where the child is going, I'm okay, me. I can rely on me, myself. But you're not okay. I can't trust you. It's a trust issue there. And with a child at the ages that we do magic tricks, hey, they trust pretty easily. They come up, they smile, they want to be involved, they want to interact with you. When you're seeing that distance and that, I don't know if I could or if I should, something has happened to that child to break their trust, to show them that you can't depend on grown-ups. And that's really sad. That is really, really sad. Don't know what's happened. And that's not in all cases, and I can't speak about this case or even any case that you listening to this might see in your shows. This is not psychological advice on where children are coming from. Definitely not. It's just giving some ideas. I made as you well know, Julian, I made a video called Kids Mind. It's a lecture. It's a lecture on behaviours that we see in children as entertainers, some of the possible causes and some of the ways we can work with that. We'll put a link in the show notes. Why not? And you guys can go and have a look at that. It's about a 20-minute lecture, and it's great continued professional development. You will get something out of it. That is a guarantee. And it covers all of the personality types that we've spoken about today. So maybe some more in-depth information for you there if it's useful.
Let's just talk about one more character type.
Brilliant.
And I saw this today. They came in a little bit later and the show had started, is the shy child who's actually got a separation anxiety from their parents.
Yeah.
There was a little girl, she came in with her parents and her mother had to sit with her, and
I remember that.
And it was again, I've got some of this in the video and was talking about it, about having to, she was literally like being a monkey over her mother, like hanging on her. She wanted to be part of it, but there's something in her, this little girl, that would not let her be a part of it. And it basically took, in the last half hour, she got in and she was separated. Her mother didn't have to be with her. Her mother was close, but then she came into the group. So what can you do with ultra shy children?
I saw this child during the bubbles. I remember seeing the child sat on the mother's lap during the bubbles, went over, and the child was interacting with the bubbles but wouldn't come very far away from the mother. This child does not feel confident within a group of people. They feel isolated and they feel alone. And the interesting thing is, if you look at where you would have saw her interacting in the show, it would have been in the dancing. Because when you're dancing, you're doing it on your own. You don't do it as a group. But
what I did notice she was doing in the dancing, because I was spending a lot of time watching her, it was interesting to see how this played out.
Yes.
Was she, as every time that you gave a new instruction in the dancing, see, she was never looking at you. She was looking at other children to see what they were doing and to make sure that she did what they were doing. She was not doing something that was wrong.
100% right. And that is the behavior of that child. Their way of interacting with the world is it's difficult for them. It's not easy. They feel an anxiety being around people, and they're always looking to check what are other people doing, because I'm going to follow the ways of other people, because then that must be right. Then I'm going to fit in. Then I'm going to be okay. We see this specifically in the younger children, in premature children. If a baby is born prem and their development is behind the other children, you can see that kind of behavior. Painfully shy, hanging on mum's leg, hiding behind mum, like you say, climbing all over mum, almost trying to climb into their skin. I'm not okay when I'm on my own. If you watch them as they go away from mum, there's a proximity alarm in them. They'll walk away, and as soon as they get a certain amount of time, they'll turn around and they'll run back. They need to be there. They need to always be in eye contact with mum. What I generally do with that kind of a child, because you can identify them pretty easily, is I try and get the mum to come and join in the danger pass the parcel. So when we're doing the pass the parcel game, get the mum to come in and then maybe slip out when it is appropriate, leaving the child behind. How do you work with that child? Never put them in your front row. So if they are going to come and sit, never force them to do anything. Try and surround them with other children. So near the back of your audience, surrounded by other children, so that they can look and see what other children are doing and follow suit. They will very often take things that you will say 100% literally. So if you take a balloon and you stretch a balloon and let go and it flicks your finger and you go, oh, that was sore, the children will laugh. But that individual will go, oh, he's hurt himself. Yeah. So you need to telegraph to them, it's okay, it's funny. And kind of give them permission to feel. Sometimes when they're dancing, they may find it difficult to know some of the moves, and you can just kind of look at anything they're doing. Yeah, that's it. You're doing it. That's perfect. And then you can see their confidence. And they're, right, no, this is acceptable. This is okay. It's almost like they need that external reassurance to be okay.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here today, Ken. I mean, I feel very, very lucky that I've been able to come and visit you here and then see you work. Simply because you are Ken Kelly, and I mean, I do feel privileged of seeing Ken Kelly work, but also the fact that this is a problem that kids entertainers face, and it's a big reason why we started Kids Entertainer Hub, is that we don't get to see other performers and work because we're all working at the same time. I mean, essentially the weekends. So this is, and I rarely see other entertainers work myself. So that was great. So what I'm going to take this video that I shot today and somehow package it together. We'll put a link to that on the show notes page. And listen to the podcast here, and I'll go back and see what we've talked about during this episode, and I'll try to structure the video in some way that it makes sense to what we've talked about here today. Because as we've been talking, I'm going, I actually videoed you doing that today. So we'll put that there, and hopefully that'll be a really useful resource that you can marry up with listening to this podcast episode.
And of course, if you're listening to this and you kind of would like to maybe explore games for yourself and the use of different kind of activities that you can do as an entertainer, maybe a little bit of magic and some disco and games, then that's what the GMD formula is about. The GMD formula is about showing you different ways to entertain children that are underpinned by psychology. So you're looking at the behaviors and managing those. And it works. We have had many people go through the GMD formula, and they're absolutely raving about it. In fact, there was some on the old Facebook group today. Got a great Facebook group that kind of underpins the GMD formula as well. So we'll pop a link to the GMD formula in the show notes as well.
I could take what you now. I mean, I've been through, because I've helped you work and build the GMD formula, but I've only ever seen it on video. But actually seeing it now work as a 2-hour package in Brisbane in Australia, we don't do 2-hour parties like that. But I watched that today, and I just thought to myself, if I needed to fill an extra part of my market, I could bring that in and market it and create a niche for that. It really is a structure that you can put anything in. It's a
formula.
It is. It's a formula, and it's all it's explained beautifully in the course. But I just actually seeing it live. It's a very workable tool that you can use.
You're being very kind, Julian. And I know you had a good time today. You say you really had a good time. And the GMD formula is it's for if you want to add some different activities that really work, that really keep children riveted and entertained. And it's modular. You don't have to do 2-hour parties to do the GMD formula. You can go and do it a half an hour and just use stuff from the GMD formula, and you can do it completely prop-free. I can walk in to an event with just my mobile phone, plug it into a PA system, and I know I can have the kids in the palm of my hand for 30 minutes. Hey, and I'm a magician. There was a time where if you took my magic show away, I couldn't work.
What did I say to you on the car on the way back? I said it's actually better than I thought it was.
Oh, listen to this.
It's true. It's true, and I know. And I mean, I'll just be upfront because I mean, you know, we do produce this course called the GMD Formula, and you know, some people are going, "Oh, this is just some sales pitch," but it's. I mean, honestly, I feel that this is actually so much better than I thought it was. So there you go, and that's all credit to you, Ken.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I've really been enjoyed being interviewed by you because this has been so seriously fun. But you know what I'm interested in? You know how we do the top and tail for all our episodes?
Yeah.
Because we're going to end this interview now. How are we going to tail it? Because it's going to be us coming out of us.